Geoverse Part 3 To Live is Human by GeodesicDragon Chapter 6 A Chance to Explain. The clock said 11:55 a.m. I was sitting in the library's living room, looking at the shocked expressions on my friends' faces as I told them what I'd learned about John. "And although what he's done is awful," I said, "I still think that he deserves a chance to explain himself and win back our trust." There was a dull knock on the door. I opened it to find John standing there. He peered over my shoulder to see the stern looks on everyone's faces. Even Fluttershy was pulling one. "You said noon, yet you started without me," John said, pushing past me into the middle of the room. "What, you figured you'd turn them all against me first and then let me try to explain myself?" "They had to know," I replied. "All I've told them is what I learned at my little meeting with your superiors." John sighed. He looked around at the occupants of the room. "I know that what I did is inexcusable," he said, "and I don't expect you all to forgive me. At first, I was doing what I was doing because I was ordered to, but as the job progressed, I realized that I genuinely respected each and every one of you." We all continued staring at him as he continued talking. "Rainbow Dash, I respect you because you're a loyal friend, no matter what happens. I know all about the Discord incident." Rainbow Dash dropped her gaze and looked at the floor. "Fluttershy, I respect you because of your kindness. You don't strike me as the sort of pony to hold a grudge. Otherwise, Iron Will and Gilda would be quaking in their boots right now." A gentle smile crossed Fluttershy's face as she too dropped her gaze, joining Rainbow Dash in looking at the floor. "Rarity, I respect you because of your generosity. I have seen you drop everything to help your friends, even if that means putting your clients at the bottom of your list of priorities." Rarity's expression softened. "Applejack, I respect you because of your honesty. I know that means nothing coming from a lying snake like me, but it's true. You also helped me out when I first got here by giving me a job and a place to live." Applejack smiled. "Pinkie Pie, I respect you because, well, you're you. You remind me of when I was a child, carefree and full of life, not giving two shits about what happens." Pinkie developed a grin that threatened to split her face in half. "Gale, I respect you because of what you've been through to find happiness. Yes, you may think our friendship is fake, but the memories I have are real and I'll remember them forever." I groaned. "Twilight, I respect you because you're Gale's wife, but also because of your spirit and your determination. You have characteristics about you that would put some people to shame." Twilight looked at me and then back to John before sighing. "And you, Ace, I respect you because you're one hell of a gamer." Ace smiled and nodded. "Well, that's that," John said. "I've said my piece. I'll go now." "Wait," I said. I motioned for everyone to come together in a huddle. We dropped our voices to a whisper. "Do any of you buy what he's saying?" I asked. "As I said Applejack, "I know what some ponies lying, and Sugar Cube, he ain't lying. It all sounded real to me." Everyone nodded. "If you say so, AJ," Rainbow Dash said, "I'll forgive him just this once. If he does something like this again, I'll kick his flank." "So, are we all in agreement?" Twilight asked. "Yes," came the universal response. We broke off from the huddle and looked at John. Sweat was trickling down his brow as he absent-mindedly chewed his fingernails, a look of worry on his face. "We've decided," I said, "that we are ready to forgive you." John's face lit up. "However," I interjected, "if you fuck up again, that's it. So I hope for your sakes that everything you said was true." John nodded. "Every fucking word," he said sharply. He opened his arms. Pinkie was first to hug him, followed closely by the other ponies. Ace and I simply shook his hand. "Now," said Rarity, "let us never speak of this again." We all nodded as Pinkie Pie pulled out her party cannon. "Now let's celebrate the fact that John's our friend again!" she yelled, firing the cannon. A burst of confetti, balloons and streamers soon covered the library. "I'll get some snacks," said Twilight as she took off into the kitchen, clutching her stomach. Pinky pulled some punch from another unknown place and set them down on the table. Soon we were all chatting away as if the events of the last few days had never happened. I went into the kitchen to find Twilight and help her with the punch, but she wasn't there. Shrugging, I grabbed a few bottles from the fridge and took them into the living room. I placed them on the table and looked around, trying to locate Twilight. Not seeing her downstairs, I went upstairs to look for her. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard sobbing coming from the bathroom. I walked quietly to the door and pushed it open. Twilight was sitting on the edge of the bathtub. Her eyes were red and puffy. As the door swung open, she gasped. "Twilight?" I asked, concerned. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she replied, avoiding my gaze. I folded my arms. "Twilight, remember what I told you when I sensed you were hiding the truth from me regarding the humans of Old Equestria?" She nodded. "You're doing it again." I sighed. "Whenever I lie to someone, I also avoid looking at them. Now tell me, what's wrong?" "I can't," she said. "Why not?" "Because you'll hate me." "I could never hate you," I said, shocked. "I love you no matter what happens." Twilight let out a small chuckle and raised her head, her lavender eyes connecting with my blue. "Are you sure about that?" she asked. "Hell yes, I am." "Good, because it turns out that—" "What?" I asked. "You can tell me." Twilight sighed. "It turns out that our DNA isn't as incompatible as we thought." I stood in silence before the realization hit me. "Oh shit, you mean—" I spluttered. Twilight rolled her eyes. "I've got a bun in the oven, Geo." We stood in silence for a moment. I leaned weakly against the bathroom door. "So, what do we do now?" I asked. "Well," replied Twilight, "we can wait 11 months to find out what we are dealing with, or we can get a scan tomorrow." "The second one," I said. "Let's do that." "Aren't you worried about a hybrid?" "I am, but now's not the time for worrying." I walked over to Twilight and sat by her side. I put one arm around her shoulders while my other hand covered her stomach. "A life is a life," I said gently. "No matter what you're carrying, it is still my child, and I'll make damn sure to give it the best life I can." Twilight smiled and hugged me. We stayed together for a few minutes before Pinkie Pie walked in. "There you two are," she said. "For a moment I thought you two had walked out on my She let out a gasp. I followed her gaze and saw that she was looking at my hand on Twilight's stomach. "You was fool?" Pinkie squealed. Twilight looked at me and I nodded. "Yes, Pinkie," she said. "I'm pregnant." Pinkie nearly exploded with delight as she shot forward and hugged both of us. "I'm going to be an auntie," she said. "What in tarnation is going on in here?" Applejack demanded. I looked over Pinkie's shoulder to see the rest of the group at the bathroom door. "Twilight's pregnant," Pinkie said. "We're all going to be aunties and uncles. Oh, this calls for a huge party." She shot out of the room. The library door was slammed shut a few seconds later. "I thought you said pony and human DNA was incompatible," Ace asked, scratching his head. Twilight smiled. "It turns out that I was wrong," she said with a giggle. "Well then," Ace said, beaming from ear to ear, "let me be the first to offer my congratulations." Everyone filed into the bathroom. The ponies gave Twilight a hug, while the men slapped each other on the back and shook hands. Despite the celebrations, I only had one thing on my mind: the future of my unborn child.